Hello everybody, welcome to more Umineko no Corona ni. I am cross and I'm having an aneurysm.
Okay, so today we're starting on episode 2.
Yay! Episode 2. Okay, I'm gonna read this one.
You're gonna what?
I'm gonna read the episode 2 thing.
No, I want to read it.
Okay, you read it.
Okay. It says, episode 2. This one's called Turn of the Golden Witch. The first one was Legend of the Golden Witch. This one is Turn of the Golden Witch.
Okay.
Good morning. The Golden Witch eagerly awaits your arrival. Please do grant her that wish. Were you able to get a good rest and perfect your strategy? The witch expects a lot from you, and is more than ready to launch an assault right from the start. I also look forward to seeing your strategy, Mike. The difficulty level is extreme. The witch intends to make you surrender all at once.
Well, I won't. Fuck you. Bitch. I'll fucking kill you.
Okay. I'm going to click start. Episode 2.
Me too. I did it. Whoa.
This story is fictitious and fantastic and resemblance to coincidental things.
Yes.
What's a stingray?
Whoa!
George-sama, please look. They're so cute. Look. Shannon found a pair of hammerhead sharks swimming playfully in the tank and looked as excited as a grade schooler seeing an aquarium for the first time.
Yeah, they really are cute. Almost makes me want to eat them.
Look at his shirt. It's the shirt.
He has dog tags. What the fuck? Was he in the military?
He was the camera guy from Higurashi. Tomitake. And that's the same style of shirt he wore.
What? Same style of shirt he wore, but this isn't the same guy.
Oh, it's not the same guy,
cool.
no. But it says his name on the shirt.
It says his name on the shirt?
It says Tomitake.
Where does it say that?
Oh, you have different sprites than me. On mine, it says Tomitake.
Where on the shirt would it say that?
It's in big letters right in the middle of the shirt. So you'd see it. Don't worry.
Okay. So it's just a nod to his previous work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I'd feel so sorry for them. Did you know? I hear the Japanese are the only people in the world who go to aquariums and say how delicious everything looks.
Nice. Is that so? I'm sure even Americans and Italians want to eat these. Those clothes look good on you. Really?
Shannon clutched at her chest with both hands in embarrassment. She apparently felt like she was being made fun of for wearing these clothes she wasn't used to. Though George's face didn't show it, he'd actually said something so completely unexpected that it surprised even him, and he was as embarrassed as Shannon on the inside. However, when he saw how embarrassed Shannon was, he started to imagine he was teasing a girl he liked, and instead of embarrassment, a ticklish amusement welled up in him. No, he wasn't just imagining it. He really was teasing the girl he liked. Before now, he wouldn't have expected to hear a line like that anywhere these days, not even in a manga or something. In fact, if he'd seen another couple acting like this, his first instinct would be to start throwing rocks at them.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck?
But even if someone were to start throwing rocks at us right now, I'm sure they'd be no different from confetti celebrating our relationship.
Is this supposed to be me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is George.
Yeah. But even if someone were to start throwing rocks at us now, I'm sure they'd be no different than confetti celebrating our relationship. Now I can't even remember those lonely days when I felt jealous of couples who were completely oblivious to their surroundings. To use an old-fashioned phrase, these are rose-coloured days I'm living in. I'm so entranced that I barely notice that massive tank in the world's largest aquarium anymore. Instead, all I see are the expressions flitting across Shannon's face as she plays with the fish. You can't play with fish, they're not even people.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's my first time seeing a tank large enough for a whale to swim in.
I heard this tank is the biggest selling point here, and that it's the biggest in the whole world.
Is that so? That's amazing. It's really wonderful. It doesn't even look like a tank at all. More like they sliced off a part of the sea with a knife and brought it here.
You're right. This really is a little sea. Despite its size, I hadn't thought of a tank as anything more than a tank. That's why I found their metaphor so interesting. No matter how far humans broaden their experiences, they always end up with viewing the world through the lens of their own values. Maybe that's why it's so interesting to interact with people who have different worldviews. This is now the sweep, like the chimney sweep from fucking Miss Muppet.
Yeah.
Or whatever the fuck. I voiced my thoughts on this. She responded. She kicked me in the nads.
True. This may not be the real sea, but if those little guys swimming in there believe it's the sea, then that's what it is.
Even though they're inside a finite tank.
The sea is finite too. Then again,
No, it isn't, you dumb bitch.
even if the sea were infinite, how much could we cover in our whole lives? I'm sure it'd only be a minuscule fraction of the sea.
You're right. It's ironic, isn't it? Even though the world is so vast, most of us humans live our lives without ever leaving our own country.
If the inhabitants of a place believe they're living in a complete world, then even the bottom of a narrow well can be a wonderful world, an entire ocean, at least to the frogs that live there.
Shannon, who spent her days as a servant on a small island 10 kilometers in circumference called Rokanjima, said that with a smile. I like his voice now again.
Turn of the Golden Witch.
Turn of the Golden Witch. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiroo. A sweepy's as lucky as lucky.
Ushiro Miya
Can do.
Battler.
Ushiro Miya Battler. We'll say our names in our own voices.
Oh.
Ushiro Miya George. Ushiro Miya Jessica. Ushiro Miya Maria.
Okay.
Ushiro Miya Kinzo. Ushiro Miya Kraus. Ushiro Miya Eva.
Ushiro Miya Natsui. Ushiro Miya Hideyoshi.
Ushiro Miya... Oh, shit. Ushiro Miya Rudolph. Ushiro Miya Rosa.
Ushiro Miya Kirie. Nanjo Teramusa. Shannon. Goda. Genji. Beatrice.
Yeah, I went a little bit too fast. I like how we're in sync, though. I like how it's like almost... I think we clicked it at like almost the same time.
Yeah.
We didn't do that the last couple of times.
Yeah.
Stuff like this happened.
Welcome to Rock'n'Jima. When They Cry 3.
What? What the fuck? They're not on the island anymore. I'm so confused. Who murdered who? What's going on here? After we finish... Ah, fuck, I almost dropped my fucking vape. After we finished walking through the old aquarium, we had a small late afternoon lunch at a restaurant with a nice view. The word buffet is the power to make any boy's heart leap. I was like that myself once, but with Shannon beside me, this buffet felt different. I couldn't shamelessly pile on the things I liked. I was, how should I put it, worried about my appearance and chose a menu suited for a snob. Toast, salad, and coffee. If I'd been by myself, I would have made a pile of oily stuff like yakisoba, mashed potatoes, gratin, and so on. Shannon, is that going to be enough for you? If it is, then I guess we men are animals with really bad fuel efficiency.
That's not what I...
On Shannon's tray, there was only tea and salad. But she's actually on a diet of cigarettes and water and an almond every Tuesday. Maybe the mere fact that I thought she was a whole plate short prove I was thinking with a man's stomach.
Actually, I should be asking you the same thing. Don't you think men should eat a little bit more than that? I imagine you normally eat much more for lunch, right?
Oh, right, dang. Come to think of it, you already know how much I eat normally because of meals I've had at the Hen family household.
That's right. So I was worried you might have an upset stomach today.
Shannon was kind enough to guess that I wasn't feeling very well. Looks like my stupid attempt to show off made her worry. And apparently my stomach wasn't going to let me show off any longer. It fucking grumbled and I fucking ate her. Gah, oh. Okay, I'll confess. I was just trying to look cool by not eating somehow. I held back just because I was with a girl.
I thought so. Considering how much you eat during lunch at the family conferences, I thought this wasn't nearly enough. Please, don't be so reserved, and feel free to go choose another dish.
It's not fair for only me to be embarrassed. What about you, Shannon? How will you be able to not eat? How will you fucking? Why are you eating the salad? Fuck off. Eat no almonds for you. How will you be able to keep up with the extreme family workload on such a sparse diet? Shannon fell silent and blushed bright red. Apparently I wasn't the only one showing off. When I realised that, my embarrassment disappeared completely. Oh, that's not enough for you either, is it? Yeah, you usually eat a bit more than this for lunch, you fucking fat slob.
A woman's stomach is made of magic, so this is enough.
That's not right, you fucking twat. So we've both been showing off to each other. Let's not hold back anymore, shall we? I smiled to show that I wouldn't make fun of it anymore and rose from my seat in order to retrieve an almond. After finally coming to Okinawa, it'd be a waste if we didn't eat some bitter melon. I'll go get some fried bitter melon or something. Melon? Fried? What? Shannon, come with me. Come on.
Yes.
To anyone watching us, we might seem like an incredibly charming and embarrassing couple. But we were actually secretly murderers. But it's only after becoming a couple that you realise, to us, this exchange of words is everything, our entire world. That's why no matter how much everyone else stares at us with blank expressions, we never notice. Indeed, at this age, I finally understand the feelings of couples who want to endlessly flirt without any regard for their surroundings. After I returned with a plate piled up with fried food, Shannon arrived with a pretty cake. You fucking bitch. While laughing at our fake stoicism, we resumed our lunch. Even though it's a restaurant with a view of the sea, it's so cloudy. Luckily, our window seats gave us a view of seaside scenery so grandiose that it extended even beyond our field of vision. However, because of this cloudy sky, we were only seeing a fraction of its usual beauty.
That's right. If it were clear, we'd undoubtedly see a deep blue sea.
Yeah, I'll bet you're already used to the sea around Rokkanjima, but the deep blue of the sea here would surely have been a sight to see. It's a real shame.
Oh, but no matter how blue the sea is at work, it might as well be grey to me. But I'm not working today, so,
Apparently, Shannon was doing her best to say an embarrassing line, but I didn't let her get off easy. So close. If you'd said, when watching the sea alone with you, George, it looks deep blue no matter how grey it is, I'd have given you full marks and a prize.
I'm sorry.
Wanna hear what the prize was?
If you don't mind telling me.
No. I won't tell you.
That's no fair.
When I was in elementary school, I once gifted a girl my penis as a present. It's not there anymore. So I couldn't give it to her even if I wanted. I was always the kid who got bullied. When everyone teased me, I grew nervous and speechless and then showed my penis. To the delights of the bullies.
To the delight of the bullies.
Back then, I wondered why everyone teased me. But now I see. It's the size of my willy. But now, teasing Shannon like this, I understand why. This is so much fun. I can play with her emotions however I please, and I can have them all to myself. Right now, I can't think of any greater pleasure than showing her my missing willy. That's why I have to go easy on her. It's not as though I want to make her feel embarrassed and upset, so I decided to be nice and change the subject. Best not to be too obstinate. When you finish your lunch, do you want to take a walk on the beach? Maybe the clouds will clear up and we'll get a beautiful view of the sea.
That's right. I want to go see it.
Yeah, let's do it. But that cake really does look delicious. Maybe I'll go get one of those too.
You mustn't. If you eat cake after eating so much, you'll get fat.
Oh, shit.
It looks like Hideyoshi's blood is pretty thick in you, George, so you'll get chubby if you don't take care.
Ha ha ha. Shannon, you don't stop liking me if I go fat, will you? After all, I wouldn't stop liking you if you got fat. Well, maybe I would, but like...
I didn't mean it that way. If you don't take good care of your body, it'll be bad for your health. Oh...
Mother warns me that all the time too. I wonder if I'll have to take up Tai Chi, Quan or something like that. Like she does and get some exercise.
When going on a diet, it's better to start by rethinking your eating habits, rather than just exercising all the time. Apparently, the exercise only helps if you're eating well first.
You can go on a dirty bulk. That's possible. In other words, you're telling me to hold off on the cake, huh? Then I guess I'll just have to gaze at you while you stuff your cheeks with it, Shannon. You fucking fat slob.
A whole cake is probably too much, but maybe just half of one would be okay. Here, it's really delicious.
Shannon cut her own cake and tried to move half to my dessert plate. I had no doubt that she wanted to share the delicious cake's flavour with me. However, I meanly pulled my plate away from her. She blinked in surprise. She couldn't seem to figure out if I was refusing the cake or not. So I winked, opened my mouth, and said, this is so fucking gay.
So that's what you really wanted. Sheesh, you're such a pampered child, George. Okay, say ah.
With a partly embarrassed, partly exasperated face, Shannon offered the cake to me with a fork. And I ate the fork, but not the cake. It tasted like a cheap chocolate cake you might find anywhere, and yet it was exceptional. Because eating cake in such an embarrassing way, as if we were a couple of perfect fools, had been my dream for many years, and also the fork tasted really good. It made this cake's flavour heavenly. The fork did. If the earth is destined to end, I wouldn't have any regrets if it happened right now with this fork in my throat. It was such a moment of bliss. Metal fork. Whoa, palm trees. After that we gathered shells, ran from waves, and enjoyed each other's company while walking along the beach. In the end, the clouds never parted. However, we both believed that the sea reflected in our eyes was a deep blue.
Somehow, I'm so happy that it scares me.
You do say that from time to time. What is it you're afraid of?
I'm a servant of the Ushiromiya family. For someone like me, to be walking like this with a member of the family, it just felt like it was too much for me.
I'm also surprised I didn't just meet you yesterday or today, Shannon. We've known each other for years now. However, we can only meet during those family meetings that only happen a few times a year. Back then, I couldn't even imagine having the sort of relationship where I could spend time with you like this. It was the same for you too, right?
I did imagine it. No, I mean, maybe I should call it a kind of daydream. I did think about what it'd be like, being in a relationship with you, a boy who was always so gentlemanly and considerate. Though it was only ever a fantastic daydream.
Then we must have you believe in your... Then we must have your believing art to thank for our relationship. Magic dwells in the power of love, so I'm sure that magic brought us together.
Magic is real. You're right.
Magic is real.
I really do think it was magic.
Beatrice exists, Scotty.
Yep.
But you know, that's not actually true. As you kept looking more and more beautiful every year, you became larger and larger presence in my mind too, and also somewhere else, if you know what I mean. If the same happened to you, then the fact that we're here today is simply an inevitable consequence rather than something caused by magic or a miracle.
No, a miracle did happen, George.
She stopped walking down the beach, gazing up beyond the sea. A miracle?
No, it was magic. It happened.
I was bewildered by that slightly mysterious phrase which I sometimes heard her use. Magic, you say?
Yes, magic. I doubt you'd believe me if I explained, so I won't. But this bit of magic definitely had the power to grant the miracle that brought us together.
Were you talking about some kind of ritual?
Yeah, you might call it something like that. Except that it really was magic, not just some ritual.
Maybe it's all girls, not just Shannon, who tend to treat encounters as miracles or coincidences. For a man like me, an encounter with a girl is 70% hard work to try and make her like you, 20% courage, and 10% coincidence. The part that means everything to her is a much smaller factor in my mind. Maybe that way of thinking in itself is calculating and typical of men. But if I said that out loud, it might dissolve all kinds of magic. To my mind, there were lots of coincidences, compromises, and expended efforts on both sides before we gained the relationship we have today. At the culmination of all that, we get to spend this joyful time together. And if she wants to call that magic, I've got no objection to her choice of words. So I'll stand up for that magic. You're right. If the same fate will repeat 100 times, maybe you and I could get into a relationship like this one, only one of those times. In other instances, even though we'd be aware of each other, maybe we would have only maintained a reserved relationship after all this time. From the perspective of those other me's and you's, you and I are undoubtedly in a miraculous relationship right now.
That's not what I meant. It really was magic. No matter how often you tell men something like this, they'll never believe it. Cannon didn't believe me at all either.
I believe you. I'd hate for the magic to fade away because I didn't believe in it.
George.
In a small voice, I apologized for saying something that trivialized her magic. Shannon seemed to be glad to hear me say that. After all, if two people believe in the magic of love, it becomes eternal. Oh, that's right. I was wondering if you'd be willing to agree to a little whim of mine.
Yes? What is it?
You call me George, right? It's not that I dislike it, but would you consider not calling me that anymore? Of course, you have to keep your appearance with the Ushiruma family, so I wouldn't force you to do so during your everyday routine in Rokkanjima. But when we're alone, I'd rather you didn't call me that. Yeah, let's make that a rule.
A rule? What would happen if I violated that rule?
I'd fucking kill you. Maybe we should have some kind of punishment game if you break the rule. Yes, what should it be? One a year?
No, I don't want to hear.
Fuck them. Makes me laugh, dude. I'll have to think about what it should be.
Okay.
Maybe...
George.
Yeah.
Son.
No, I'm thinking more like Lord George King. King George, Lord, first of his name. I love the way that sounds. I'm so happy. Shannon?
I also have another name. It's Seo.
Oh, I see. The rules gotta be fair after all. I'll call you Lady Mistress Sayo. I'll follow it too, and from now on, I'll call you Lady Mistress Sayo, the first of her name. Okay. Lady Sayo, the first of her name.
Yes.
I held her shoulder and drew her close. When I forcefully pulled her delicate body towards me, she dove into my chest like a doll. As I held her head in my arms, we both looked at the horizon. What a deep blue sea. So happy we got to look at this sea, just the two of us.
Me too. I'm so glad to have a chance to look at this deep blue sea with you.
As we gazed at the grey sea and the light rain began to sprinkle down, we kept listening to each other's heartbeats. Hers was really erratic, and then she fucking stopped moving. What the fuck was that all about, man? Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. Hit or miss. No.
The sound of waves flows into my ears. No, it's the sound of an enraged sea. My body, bathed in painfully cold splashes, does not allow me to forget. It won't let me forget the memories of the day my old fate was broken and smashed. Once, tomorrows were literally like looking into a mirror. All I ever saw there was the person I already was. Tomorrow was absolutely no different from today. That was my old fate. But then, for the first time, I saw a different fate beyond the mirror. The witch whispers to me. She tempts me to take a bite out of the fruit of knowledge. She torments me, saying I'll be furniture as long as I stay in God's paradise. So, I decided to choose the path of knowing love, and tried to become a person. Those days were like sweet honey, but at the time, I didn't realize that they'd be the start of a new kind of suffering. I've arrived at a small island on a motorboat I've only just learned how to use. No, this can hardly be called a small island. It's little more than a rock jutting out of the water. On this rock is a torii and a small shrine. It was probably built to worship the guardian deity of Rakanjima. Even though I don't know exactly what it signifies, I know it has to be something holy. Even in a place like this, I've got to take just one more look around to see if there's anyone who might get mad at me for coming. I see nothing but the stormy ocean, Nijima looming in the distance, and the waves breaking against Rakanjima's steep cliffside. I ready myself, timidly approach the small shrine, and take the mirror that lies there as an offering. The mirror looks old, cloudy, and dirty. That would probably make any normal mirror seem horribly cheap. However, since the mirror has been placed in this small shrine, its appearance seems to give some sort of divine quality to it. And there's one thing I can tell. This is no simple mirror. It may seem like an old, battered mirror to a non-believer like myself, but it has a great significance. Is it really okay to break this after being captivated by honeyed words? No, this isn't really a mirror. This is the life I couldn't escape until today, my fate. I'll break it. I'll smash it and seize the life that lies beyond this mirror. If I don't smash it, my life will be a pair of facing mirrors forever. Nothing will ever change in the slightest. The witch whispers to me. She tempts me to take a bite of the fruit of knowledge. Or maybe I've already tasted of that fruit. After all, I've already experienced those maddening emotions. Just as Adam and Eve felt compelled to pluck their fig leaves, I can no longer go on without breaking this mirror. I've struggled with conflicting emotions for many days before this moment. Inside my heart, the virtuous part of me kept on fighting the part that sides with the witch. And now, here I am. Did the part of me that's here right now win or lose? There's only one thing I know. To obtain something, you must be ready to lose something. Cowards who don't risk anything, who never try to change anything, will never be given the key that opens the path to a new future. That key is already in my hands, and that key is to break this, to smash it. Is there any other effort I can make as furniture imprisoned in Rakanjima? No, this is the only way for me. Come, have courage. I'll free myself from being mere furniture, and by accepting a new kind of suffering, I'll become human. This is surely a small, yet large trial I must impose on myself. Come on, smash it. I'll smash to pieces the eternally unchanging fate that imprisons me. I raise the mirror high. I think back on the days of conflict that come before, and, finishing my reflections in the blink of an eye, I throw it down. The thunder roars, crying out against me for my outrageous act. It truly is the hatred of angels trying to banish me from eternal paradise. I look down at the mirror tumbling at my feet, broken in 2 equal parts, and after making sure I've accomplished my task, I scream up at the raging skies. I've kept my promise. Now, it's your turn to keep yours, right? Thunder roars once more. I've already been banished from paradise, so I'll have to struggle on my own if I want to live. The witch told me, that is the single element of this world. To lose it means losing the world, like how a canteen with a hole in the bottom can't be filled, no matter how much water you pump into it. I've kept my promise. Now it's your turn to keep yours. Please, grant my wish. Beatrice-sama!
Whoa!
And after this, it
Whoa!
is a pretty good time to take a break, a bathroom break, if you need to.
I don't need to do
Okay. Well, then let's just watch this.
Yeah.
When They Cry.
this is so awesome, dude. Look at this. I fucking love this. This is fucking epic. Oh shit, I fucking right-clicked, no! It's gone.
What's gone?
It's gone now. I right-clicked.
You clicked?
I right-clicked accidentally.
Oh, I'm still watching it.
No.
Well, you see George,
Yeah, you
George
watch
and
it.
Jessica. George is looking at Jessica.
No.
I'll just explain
I
it to
wanna
you.
see them.
Natsui's got the
No.
clock. She's looking at the clock. Everything's pulsing.
What?
Kraus and Kinzo and all the adults are there. Nanjo, Shannon are the servants, and a bunch of laughing faces. Kinzo is there. A bunch of those magic drawings that were on the doors, showing those.
Yeah. I don't need you to verbatim describe it to me. I can just... I might be able to... I could probably look it up.
Well, it's pretty much over. Oh, and it shows a wine bottle on the floor at the end.
Wine bottle?
I think it's supposed to be the bottle that the message at the end of the last episode. It said a message in a bottle showed up that told the story of the last episode. I think that's what that bottle was.
Yeah.
Okay, who's this? My mind wandered.
I
I'll
don't
just
know.
start reading, and then we'll figure out who it is.
Okay.
My mind wandered. Back to the days when I could barely imagine the happiness I have now. I think it's... Is it
Bound.
George? I was a middle schooler at the time. Oh, it's Shannon, I think. I was a middle schooler at the time. A normal girl who thought about love as much as you'd expect of someone that age. But in truth, it was wrong of me to have that dream. Yeah, Shannon. After all, I am furniture. Furniture is nothing more than a tool, not a human. As a person, less than human, simply receiving an education was an enormous blessing. So in reality, even thinking about falling in love was more than I deserved. The Ushiro Miya Family Conference was a customary event held every October, but relatives sometimes visited at other times. Of course, they didn't come just to drink tea. On this day, Ava's family was visiting the head family on Rokkanjima. The 3 members of Krause's family and the 3 members of Ava's family had gathered in the parlor, and were having a friendly chat about recent events. Genji had supposedly told Kinzo of Ava's family's arrival, but he still hadn't come down. He was probably immersed in his research and couldn't spare the time. This often happened, so the others waited patiently for their fickle father to arrive.
Oh, how promising. Make sure you work hard under your father, building the skills you'll need if you want to land him a hand soon.
Thank you very much. I've learned countless precious things from the many experienced people Father has introduced me to, and these were all things I could never have learned in school.
When you're in school, it's not math and language you're learning. What they're really teaching you is the right outlook and attitude for learning more. Once you've got that base, you can finally start a long period of study that'll last your entire life. People who don't get this end up spending their whole lives as fools who never learn. Just getting full marks in math and language won't do you any good at your company.
Indeed, that is exactly right. Hideyoshi, your style of education never fails to impress.
George isn't quite a full man yet. He'd better always keep that in mind and embrace his studies.
Stop it, dear. George is always giving it his all, right?
Truly admirable. I wish our Jessica would learn from him.
Sheesh, are you still holding a grudge about that test score? I'm studying for the test the best I can. At least I don't say it here. Pissing me off.
Once people started praising George for his diligence, the conversation usually turned to Jessica, who hated studying. Jessica made an openly displeased face, as though she'd known this would happen.
My, schoolwork aside, it seems Jessica had better learn to choose her words a little more gracefully. How improper for the single daughter who bears the weight of the Ushimoime family crest. Come now, she's quite appealing in her own ways, and she, times changed. The time when we had to act all modest to entertain men ended long ago. That's right. I knew you'd understand, Aniva.
Huh, my headache is truly trying today.
Are you okay? And Natsuki, you're looking a bit pale.
Thank you, I'm fine. Still, time really has flown. It feels just like yesterday when you would run around half naked by the beach and come back soaked.
Wasn't your Jessica the same? And now she's a lady who fusses over how to put on makeup. I see you focused on your eyebrows. You look really cute today. Thank you very much. No one noticed, so I was a bit unsure of myself.
A full smile rose to Jessica's face as the results of her own studies were finally appreciated. Ava smiled back in the same way. Then she turned that smile towards Natsui.
Come on, Natsui. You must take notice of small changes in your own child. Poor Jessica. You probably wanted your mother to notice first, didn't you? No problem. That person never notices anything. Jessica, I cannot condone your speaking of her mother in such a fashion. Apologize.
Later,
Fricker.
I will speak to you at length about your language.
Tch. If you don't want kids getting in your way, just say so. I'm gonna take a step outside. It's getting stuffy in here.
Jessica!
Nah.
Jessica was still at the age where tests and entrance exams are pretty nerve-wracking. Recently, she'd clashed often with her mother, who was enthusiastic about her education. Excuse me. Yeah. Jessica, who was trying to leave the parlor in a bad mood, bumped into Shannon, who was pushing a serving cart filled with tea.
Out of my way, bitch. Shannon. No need to worry about my tea. I'm just gonna go wander around the garden. You fucking get out of my way.
M'lady.
Get out. Stop.
Shannon, the tea is getting cold. Serve it quickly. My apologies. Shannon hadn't actually done anything wrong, but Natsui, who felt like something shameful to herself had been shown, lashed out at her emotionally. This was something that often happened in the Ushiromiya family, but it seems Shannon wasn't strong-willed enough to just accept it and move on. She shrank back and cowered while serving the tea. She had the unfortunate habit of making more mistakes when she cowered. Her pitiful appearance ruined the peaceful atmosphere that had existed a moment before. It wasn't really Shannon's fault, but she thought she might be the source and felt a pressure on her chest. Her shaking fingers made the...
It was Balor's hand.
Hmm?
No, nothing. I just tried to make a stupid joke.
Oh. Her shaking fingers made the utensils clang, and you couldn't have called it graceful, not even just to be polite. The more pitiful she appeared, the greater the silence grew. The more irritated Natsui looked, and the more Shannon cowered. Shannon's thin neck felt like it was being suffocated and choked by the reaper known as stress. At that time, George spoke brightly, blowing away the stiff atmosphere.
So how's your diet going? This smells nice. What kind of black tea is it?
This is...
She doesn't know. Oh shit. No, don't say it. I'll guess. It's a very distinctive smell, so I probably know it. Is it Earl Grey?
I think it probably is.
Well, what is it then? Oh, yeah, I'll bet it's Earl Grey. When you get back to the kitchen, check the tin. You fucking dummy.
Huh? George, you know a lot about black tea, don't you?
One of the company presidents who looked after me was very knowledgeable about black tea. I managed to pick up a little while listening to him discussing the subject.
Oh yeah, the president of Okanogi Foods. Yep, that sort of trivia is that guy's specialty.
The name of black tea often referred to the place they're made, right? So did this come from a place with that name?
From what I've heard, there was a person called Earl Grey in England long ago, and it was named after him. Furthermore, this distinctive smell doesn't come from the tea leaves, but from a fruit called bergamot, which is a relative of the mandarin orange.
Is that so? I never knew that. Learning things like that makes tea taste all the more delicious. Same thing goes for alcohol and cigarettes. Luxury items have a taste of romance. Knowing stuff like this deepens the taste.
Is it the same as reading the list of benefits on a medicine bottle? Matsui, you should try reading the explanation on your favorite headache medicine someday.
Hee hee ha ha.
It's a wonderful idea. Try it tonight.
Yes, I'll do so.
Shannon, try opening that pot. You should find some dry bergamot missing with the tea leaves.
Yes. It's in there. Something like dried orange peel is mixed in.
Yes, that's probably bergamot. The main ingredient in Earl Grey's scent. The scent is vivid, so you might expect the taste to be intense, but it's still gentle and easy to drink. If you make it with milk, the scent should become more mild, which works great. If there's anything left in the pot after you've poured for everyone, you should really try drinking it with milk.
Yes. Thank you very much. George gave her a small wink. Shannon finally realized that George had kind-heartedly swept aside the tense atmosphere in the room, and he had done it for the sake of Shannon herself, a cowering servant. The Ushiromiya family did not pamper their servants, and any display of awkwardness would be harshly punished, so it was rare for them to be given a helping hand like this. Thanks to George's kindness, Shannon managed to regain control of herself and finished serving tea without further incident. As long as she stayed calm, she could carry out her work elegantly and flawlessly. By the time the black tea was laid out on the table and its elegant scent filled the room, the atmosphere had completely returned to its former peaceful mood, and everyone praised George's knowledge. Shannon wanted to thank him for saving her, but it didn't look like she would get the chance, so she decided to at least thank him inside her heart, praying to God that George wouldn't hear it as she pushed the serving cart away.
Shit, I was gonna say a joke, then I forgot it. God damn it.
George always lends me a helping hand at times like that, by changing the topic or something.
Shannon and Jessica were in the rose garden. Jessica still hadn't returned to the parlor after getting into a fight with her mother and was nonchalantly killing time here. When I think back on it, I get the feeling this wasn't the first time he's helped me like that. Whenever I made a careless mistake and George was around, I'm pretty sure he'd always naturally smooth things over and restore harmony. Maybe it wasn't something as direct as picking up a fork that had been dropped, but that was his way of caring. Even servants have their pride. They want to fix their own mistakes by themselves, and if a guest lends them a hand, they'll lose face.
He's really good at reading between the lines when stuff like that happens. Well, I guess it's kind of like an art to him. That guy's more of a show-off than he looks.
That's not true. I think he's a really wonderful person.
Shannon, you haven't fallen in love with George, have you? You
For once,
fucking
Shannon...
whore.
Huh?
You fucking whore.
Oh no. For once, Shannon had disagreed with Jessica in a slightly forceful tone, which immediately caught Jessica's attention. No, that's not it. I think...
Come to think of it, I've hardly heard of any stories about George and love. Huh? I think I remember hearing him say that the family-orientated girls were his type, didn't I? Sweet, that fits you perfectly, Shannon.
Fucking
get that
it
dick,
does?
girl.
How could... I am not, suitable for such a thing.
Not suitable, like hell you aren't. You've known him so long, you're practically a childhood friend. They said that when you start from a natural relationship where you don't think the other is a member of the opposite sex, things start to move pretty fast once you finally start thinking about it. There's no doubt.
Jessica loved teen magazines with this kind of story, and she was always getting excited talking about that kind of thing with her friends. She was very quick to pick up on love stories like this, so this wasn't the first time Shannon had been exposed to this kind of story. But this certainly was the first time she'd started thinking of George as a member of the opposite sex. She was furniture, while George was an honored guest and a member of the Ushiromiya family. Until now, she'd assumed that even imagining any deeper relationship with him would be impermissible, so she hadn't thought of it. Since it was someone else's problem, Jessica poked fun at it, seeming to enjoy herself. It was all Shannon could do to hide her blushing cheeks. If George were to appear at a time like that, she'd have no chance of keeping her cool. They saw George come out from the entrance hall of the mansion. It looked like he'd seen them as well. He headed over, waving his hand. Shannon had to frantically try and regain her ordinary composure before George reached them.
Grandfather finally came down. Now they're having an adult discussion, so they chased me out.
Haha, escaping then was the right choice. I'd be better to kiss the angel of death than look at grandfather's face. Fucking bitch.
You shouldn't speak that way. But I think grandfather might think of us as angels of death. After all, we came here to talk about borrowing money for business reasons.
That's right. This wasn't the customary annual October family conference. Ava's family had visited to apply for a business loan from the head family. Kinzo had vast resources, and he lent those out to his children. Of course, they didn't borrow money because they were living in poverty. How would they expand their businesses with the vast sums they wanted to borrow? How much interest would be attached, and how long would they have to repay it? This wasn't the sort of loan designed for the poor. It was a loan for those who were on the offensive. Kinzo strictly judged whether it would be worth lending out his fortune, and afterwards he strictly oversaw its use. So Rakanjima would sometimes play host to this spectacle, where relatives visited and described their businesses to Kinzo. To the parents, these meetings burdened them with the strain of having to move a vast amount of money, but to Jessica, who lived on this isolated island called Rakanjima, it was a precious opportunity to meet up with her cousins. So being able to talk with the occasional guest such as George like this immediately cured the bad mood she'd gotten from that fight with her mother.
My family's totally stingy too. They've probably got money to spare, so why not lend it out graciously? Dad and grandfather will probably get pig-headed and act all important.
It's natural to be prudent when lending money. Of course, my father will use what he borrows to expand his business, and came up with a plan that promises a solid profitability of repayment. Everything else is left up to the presentation. But I really wish I could watch from the corner and learn. Mother chased me out. I'm a little let down.
It seems the master still tends to scold Kraus and Ava as if they were kids. I'm sure she didn't want to let her son see that. As Shannon hung her head, she thought back on a scene familiar to those who worked in the mansion. Even Kraus, who acted haughtily towards his siblings, was still treated like a child by Kinzo. Shannon herself had often seen Kinzo slap Kraus and tell him to sit up straight. It was probably very embarrassing to be coerced like this at his age. Taking care to avoid being present at times like that was one of the important responsibilities held by the servants working here. However, the fact that Shannon had ended up witnessing such a scene meant that she'd messed up at least once in the past.
Yes, I imagine so. Maybe figuring that out and staying away is part of a child's duty. Oh, that's right. The flowers in this garden are truly splendid this time of year.
George stretched as he said that, and he smoothly changed the subject away from one that was a little gloomy. This time, Shannon noticed it too. This person, George, could sensitively figure out the situation and always change the subject to something harmonious out of kindness. It was so smooth that Shannon hadn't noticed it until today. Today, Shannon really had to admire the way George did that. Of the boys close to Shannon's age that she'd known, nearly all had been classmates during her period of mandatory education, but they had all been young, and none had possessed the composure George had. Mere moments ago, he'd been just another guest, but right now, she couldn't help but think of him as something more. However, such thoughts were mere distractions from her work as a servant. Shannon tried to chase them away with a small shake of her head.
What's up?
No, it's nothing. Shall I make some tea? I will prepare some more of that Earl Grey.
Oh, so you remembered the name of that tea. I'm glad. How the fuck could she forget?
Thank you for your concern back then. Shannon was finally able to put her gratitude into words. If you wrote it out, it wouldn't be very long, but Shannon had needed a little spark of courage to say it out loud. But George played dumb.
What do you mean? I don't remember doing anything I should be thankful.
He seemed to be playing the gentleman in his own way, letting her know he wasn't doing it out of a desire for gratitude. George's response seemed to be more or less exactly what Jessica had predicted. She couldn't help but burst out laughing.
Ha 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 ha. See? Isn't he a bit of a show-off at times like this?
No, that's not... Jessica poked fun at Shannon as the latter remained silent, red-faced. George didn't know the details, but he naturally joined in, laughing the same way.
Haha, you like George.
The three of them lazily walked around the garden, catching up on recent events. George, as the oldest cousin, talked about his life experiences. Jessica talked about recent life on Rockinjima, and Shannon talked about her recent work. They kept going on about these trivial things. Even when Shannon heard the others talk about deeply interesting things, she never felt any particular interest in the actual content of their stories. She was nothing more than a servant, and she had no intention of delving into her master's lives. She simply wanted them to enjoy their time speaking with her, and would only pretend to listen intently and nod at the right moments. But for some reason, the things George talked about today seemed to catch her interest powerfully. Even things she'd normally ignore felt like they contained a trace of kindness behind the words. For some reason, she wanted to know more things about George, no matter how trivial. So, she stared fixedly at him. She thought that as far as looks went, this Ushiromiya George was probably about average and didn't stick out in any particular way. But he was diligent, serious, and had a deep prudence which allowed him to understand people's hearts and show concern. But she'd never noticed these things before now. She may not have met him many times, but she'd known his face for many years. Even so, she hadn't noticed once until now. Shannon, embarrassed by her own obliviousness, blushed. George, perhaps thinking that Shannon would listen intently to his stories, kept talking happily and at length about things he'd done and seen. But Jessica didn't miss that slight change in Shannon. So she decided she'd change the conversation to the topic she was sure Shannon was most interested in.
Oh yeah, come to think of it, George, have you finally gotten a girlfriend or what?
Where did that come from?
Normally, that reaction should have been answer enough, but for some reason, as she was now, Shannon wouldn't be able to understand it unless he said it clearly. George is very nice, so I'm sure, he's very popular.
Well, yeah.
Quit it, Shannon. Isn't cornering him like that actually pretty mean?
I wasn't trying to be mean.
Well, I'm flattered that you have that mistaken impression of me. I'm actually a fucking neat. I've got no friends. but unfortunately, I haven't had a relationship with any particular girl. Particularly because I've cut off my own penis. After all, my looks are below average, as you can see.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Harry Potter.
He is Harry Potter, what do you mean? Oh shit, when he was changing his name, he was like, "When you should call me Harry Potter." Fuck, I missed that chance. Oh. Fuck. That would have been so funny. Oh, damn it. and I can't speak tactfully in a way that can entertain a girl.
I don't think that's true. And I think a man's charm is decided by something that can't be measured by his appearance. That's why, I think you might be considered a very attractive man, George. Shannon was being uncharacteristically verbose. She hardly ever spoke at such length. George seemed fairly pleased to hear someone applaud his charm like this, but he was just a little surprised at this sudden high praise. Jessica, now sure her guess was spot on, appeared to be barely holding back laughter.
Thank you, Shannon. I hope I do bump into a girl who's generous enough to feel attracted to me before too long. Wonder who that could be.
Yes, I'm sure you'll run into one. I'm sure there's at least one, no, a lot of girls who will recognize your real charm. She probably wanted to say that there was at least one girl very close to him. Shannon avoided saying that much, drawing a final line as a servant.
Really? I guess I'm kind of embarrassed.
He had probably never been praised this heavily by a girl before. George's face turned just as bright red as Shannon's. As she watched the two of them, Jessica giggled sadistically.
Well, I'm sure you'll eventually bump into a wonderful partner, George. But I doubt you'll be able to properly escort your partner as you are now, right? Looks like you're diligent, but you've completely abandoned your study of that.
Sorry about that. I'll start studying that bit by bit.
And how do you plan to do that all by yourself? Are you gonna watch romance movies or something? Those don't exist. What, are you fucking retarded? Are you gonna learn from Uncle Hideyoshi?
Well, you're acting pretty triumphant. Men are no match for girls when it comes to this sort of thing.
Normally, when George and Jessica got together, their parents would say George is diligent and admirable, and Jessica is lazy and rude. So it was probably unbearable fun for Jessica to have their roles finally reversed. George realized this as well, so he resigned himself to being the one getting teased for once.
So, George, as long as you're okay with it, why not practice a bit with Shannon? You know, it'll be your job to keep Shannon entertained all day long on a date. What do you think?
Well, what are you, m'lady? When she heard Jessica's audacious plan, Shannon's face turned bright red with a poof, and a donut of smoke started to rise from her head.
That is a very tempting plan, but I don't want to burden Shannon, or it'd just end up wasting one of her precious days off, wouldn't it? Or I'd be butting in on that sacred time that she should be spending alone with someone she really likes. I couldn't do something so boorish.
I also, don't have a person I have feelings for or anything, so, there's no need to hold back for my sake. Shannon's blood had all rushed to her head, and it looked like even she didn't know what she was blabbling about. Jessica, who knew how Shannon normally was, seemed to be finding this hilarious. She couldn't hide her cackling laughter anymore.
That's her laugh now. Is it true? Oh, I can't believe a cute girl like you would be single, Shannon. Well, she only fucking lives on this island. What the fuck do you mean? It's fucking obvious, you dumbass.
I am a servant, so, of course I don't have any relationships with boys,
Which means that if Shannon ever wants a chance at getting herself a wonderful guy, she needs practice with relationships too, right? So you both want the same thing. Sweet, that would be perfect.
Jessica's the matchmaker.
Yeah.
Jessica irresponsibly cheered the two of them on. By now, even George was hanging his head and turning red.
George, I've been calling for you for a while now. Didn't you hear me?
When Ava appeared in what was already an embarrassing situation, both of them got even more flustered. Jessica watched and laughed loudly.
Oh, Mother. Sorry, I was having ghost in our conversation. I didn't notice.
Oh, Ava, you have my deepest apologies.
It looks like you young kids are getting really fired up together. You're all about that age. Oh, I know how kids your age can talk about that sort of thing forever. Come now, you're still young yourself, Aunt Ava. Please tell us how you and Uncle Hideyoshi met. Oh my, there's no way I could say that. Oh, it was a brothel. I worked there. Oh, you already are so young.
So what is it, Mother? You called because you wanted something, right?
Your father and the rest have finished talking. We're going to talk to Grandfather about you, so come on.
About me? What could that be?
Same thing you were all talking about just now. You know what I mean, right?
Oh, that. That is really something we need to talk to Grandfather about, right?
What's going on? Wait, George, are you really getting married?
Congratulations.
No. Didn't I just say I didn't have a particular woman I was interested in?
That isn't something to brag about, is it? Good grief.
Ava smiled bitterly, looking a little exasperated.
Oh, I get it. George, it's one of those, right? A marriage meeting.
A marriage meeting, you say?
Well, yeah.
Surely, as a man, George wanted to find a partner by himself and bring her home with him. So, it seemed he thought it a bit pathetic to meet his partner for the first time in a marriage meeting arranged by his parents.
Gross. Shouldn't marriage meetings be done at a more mature age? I still don't feel like I've become a full-fledged adult.
Of course, we have no desire to rush into an immediate engagement of marriage, right? There's nothing wrong with deepening your friendship first, and then having her move to our family register after you've gotten older and settled down.
Judging by Ava's forceful attitude and George's non-committal one, the others could catch a glimpse of the story behind this marriage meeting. They didn't know who George was supposed to be meeting, but it was surely someone who would profit Ava's family in a business sense. The very fact that they'd be satisfied with a mere engagement to deepen the relationship between the two families, rather than an immediate marriage, made it feel almost like a political maneuver.
You see, marriage isn't something you should enter into only after you start liking someone. You marry first, then you adjust. If you marry based purely on emotions, you'll always end up regretting it. There's certainly nothing wrong with choosing a person with a secure background for your partner in life and then developing your affection later. Aunt Ava, isn't that kind of rude to Uncle Hideyoshi? I love that man. I want to always be with him and to live my life by his side.
Ava, that's wonderful. Truly splendid.
But I fucking hated him when I first met him. Thank you. But we built up those feelings while we were husband and wife, you see, and I believe that in the future we will be much, much closer than we are now. To think that's what's best for a married couple.
Still, I don't think you can use that to argue that it's okay to marry someone you don't even like.
But it also doesn't mean that it's okay to marry anyone as long as you like them. It only takes an instant to get married, but your life as a married couple will last a long, long time after that. So you should choose with prudence and avoid making decisions based on momentary emotions. Don't you think a matter like this would be better handled by us rather than a person lacking in life experience such as yourself?
That may be true, but...
I'm proud of you, my only son. You've grown magnificently, and I'm sure you'll do us proud no matter where you go. And now that battler has left the family register, you are father's only male grandchild carrying his blood. We must prudently choose a fitting partner for you.
As everyone related to the Ushiromiya family knew, Ava adored George immensely. But that didn't mean she had pampered him. She had been strict with him and had raised him into a wonderful boy who wouldn't betray her expectations. That was why she treasured him so.
Your partner certainly won't be selected based on your parents' profit and loss. I'll bring you a suitable and truly wonderful woman. At this moment, your immaturity might make this seem unpleasant to you. But if you're going to take my advice on anything, listen to me now. Have I ever failed to act in your best interest?
No.
No.
Oh shit.
You haven't.
I'm fucking
Yeah,
stupid.
it's me, you fricker! Stop reading!
That's enough for now, so let's go. We're keeping father waiting. Hurry to the mansion.
Well, sorry you two. See you later.
George bowed to the two of them, and after bowing once more to Shannon, he dashed off to the mansion.
I blew a kiss towards Shannon and fucking killed myself. Right then and there.
Aww.
I'll be going with him too. Forgive me for interrupting such an entertaining conversation, Jessica. Shannon? No, please, don't worry about it. Come on, Shannon. Let's go.
Yes.
You fricker. It's okay. I'm sure you'll meet someone wonderful soon too, Jessica. A wonderful person suitable for you. So if he's at the same level as me, you mean a guy with shit grades? That kind of pisses me off. And of course you too, Shannon. I'm sure that a wonderful man suitable for you will appear.
Yes, thank you very much. As Ava giggled and smiled, she approached Shannon's ear with a hand over her mouth, as though she was trying to tell her a secret. Huh?
You fucking bitch! I'm sure you'll find a perfect match with for a lowly servant like yourself. Have you forgotten to be grateful for your education and know your place?
That's not what I meant.
George is the eldest grandson carrying father's blood. He's a person who may bear the burden of the issue me a family someday in the future. To answer that expectation, he has studied tirelessly, entered a wonderful college, and is getting wonderful grades. Did you really think you could snatch George away, you uneducated, incompetent, unqualified, uncultured servant?
Those malicious words all poured into Shannon's ear without spilling a drop. To Shannon, it was like cold water was being poured in there. I didn't mean... This was all whispered to Shannon in secret, and with the same smile as before, Jessica, who could only see Ava's expression, didn't think it was anything other than Ava telling Shannon some embarrassing story about love. When their secret conversation ended, Ava patted Shannon's shoulders as though she was urging her on.
Don't worry, I'm sure you'll find a perfect match for a partner, right? Okay, Jessica, see you later. Yeah, see you later. And make sure you tell me about you and Uncle Hideyoshi next time. No way.
Ava laughed loudly and headed back to the entrance hall. Behind Jessica, who was cheerfully waving her hand, Shannon reflected very, very deeply on those words of Ava's about knowing her place. It's time for me to take a serious look at how full of myself I've been acting. I forgot. I'm furniture. Furniture isn't human. So I am a being who must feel gratitude for even being treated like a human, and I am not permitted to wish for anything more. People sometimes develop affection for furniture they're used to using, but that is emotion on the human side, and the furniture has no right to hope for such a thing. It's enough that furniture serves with simple honesty day after day. That feeling I got when talking to George and Jessica is the same as a forbidden drug to me. In other words, it may be an emotion I must never experience. Shannon, you've had your head in the clouds for some time now. Do you not feel well? No, my apologies.
I'm gonna go take a piss. Fucking coffee, dude.
Oh.
Yeah.
Natsui's words were right on the mark. Even Shannon couldn't believe that she hadn't noticed Natsui until she had called. Normally, it was essential that she focus on her cleaning at this time of day, but she'd spent all her time sighing and hardly making any progress. Even when there aren't any guests around, you must always be alert. Behavior like this is shameful for an Ushiromiya family servant. Yes, ma'am. I will take care from now on. The head and my husband will return very soon. Have you finished cleaning the study? Have you finished cleaning the staircase? My apologies. Not yet. Yes, I know. So I had Lunan do it. While you were plodding around cleaning the hallway, she finished cleaning the study and the staircase. That's because, I wanted to clean it properly, so it took some time. Shannon was simple and honest, so she would always carry out her tasks seriously and properly without any omissions, so she was always slow with her work. In contrast, Lunan cleverly avoided doing extra work whenever it was possible, so she could complete her jobs with a result that looked almost the same to an outsider, but in a much shorter time. In other words, she was a shrewd employee. Compared to that, it's probably fair to say that Shannon wasn't very shrewd at all, talking back to Natsui when Natsui was in a bad mood. Of course, there was nothing that Natsui couldn't stand more than a servant talking back. Her forehead creased and she spoke sternly. And yet her slow, admonishing style of speech was even more terrifying, and finally made Shannon realize she had said the wrong thing.
Then perhaps you should aim to do a truly thorough cleaning. Shannon, I order you to clean the reception hall right now. It is an important hall, where several pictures treasured by the head are displayed, and where honored guests of the Ushiromiya family are welcomed. Clean it thoroughly so that not a speck of dust remains, and so that even you are satisfied. Of course, you will finish before the day is out. Until you finish that and report to me, you will not be permitted any food or rest. Understood?
Yes, madam.
That is good. Servants should endeavor to only use those words. The next time you talk back, your punishment will be even more severe, so with that in mind, engrave these words into your heart.
Yes, madam. Thank you for your guidance.
You are welcome.
Behaving as though her headache was troubling her, Natsui headed off down the corridor. When she couldn't see her anymore, Shannon hung her head and sighed. This was what happened when she had her head in the clouds. Even though I'm bad at everything I do, I should be able to at least carry out the cleaning as well as an average person can, right? It's because I can't even perform that very well that I'm crying so pathetically. But what's even more shameful is that not only have I been unable to perform a single bit of cleaning well, but just now, when Natsui was scolding me, I imagined that person appearing and rescuing me.
Oi, what's up, Clint?
If only George were here. Would he casually step in and save me? Surely he'd show up cheerfully, intentionally acting like he didn't know what was going on, nimbly change the subject and make me forget I'd ever been rebuked by Natsui. I kept envisioning him, suddenly appearing from the other side of the door, or the other end of the hallway. I envisioned the kind of person that would be an appropriate partner for him in a marriage meeting, and I envisioned how unfitting I was for him. Ava clearly told me. It's been repeating over and over in my dreams. You're still as clumsy as always, Nay-san. Milady has been in a bad mood since this morning. That just now happened because you talked too much, when you should have just hung your head in silence.
Cannon!
Cannon was suddenly there. His footsteps were always quieter than a cat's, and he never left any trace of his presence. He probably could have stood there forever, and she still wouldn't have noticed him. The expression on Cannon's face was one of hatred. He made that expression for Shannon, who didn't know how to do it herself. Madame and Lunan can fall into hell. That person knows where Madame checks and only cleans those areas. Her cleaning just now was like that. I know because I saw. She wasn't really cleaning. She's just the worst kind of parasite, leeching off your thorough cleaning.
You mustn't use such dirty words. Dirty words pollute your clean soul, Cannon. So at least don't use those words in front of me, okay?
Humph. Cannon turned away as though sulking. It was a reaction that hid his true feelings, which was very like Cannon.
But I was a little happy. He was getting mad for my sake.
Cleaning the reception hall will be tough. I'll help.
Thank you. But I was the one Madam ordered, so don't worry. Don't you also have your own work, Cannon?
It's a filthy job. My soul was polluted long ago.
Cannon then hung his head and bit his lower lip.
Just hearing you say you'll help is enough for me. If you don't go back to your own job, then you'll be punished as well, and that would make me sad. Shannon knew Cannon's character well. Sometimes he didn't think enough about himself. If I don't refuse forcefully, he'll help me even if it means neglecting his own job. Cannon was a little sad that his goodwill had been rejected, but he realized that what he was doing would only hurt her more in the end, and he gave a single small sigh. Understood. Do your best.
Yes, and I am also partly to blame.
You aren't at fault at all.
No, I am. So go now.
Cannon's face showed that he still hadn't completely accepted it, but without being any more obstinate, he disappeared.
Like, actually, like he just turned into dust.
Hmm?
He just turned into dust, dude. It's Thanos snap.
Sorry, my headphone was out a little.
God damn it. Okay. Ruining my jokes, dude. My jokes. They're good. They're not. They're not
Oh,
good
it
jokes.
was a joke.
But at least I'm
It was a
trying.
joke. Okay, I thought you were asking me to do something.
No, I'm not. Just jokes.
Even though Cannon came to give me words of comfort when I was down, even so, I was dejected because it wasn't him. That in itself was a sin. It went far beyond any dream the likes of me could be permitted to see. I don't know my place. Shannon, who had neglected breakfast, already felt her concentration begin to waver. But if she didn't finish cleaning up the reception hall, she wouldn't receive Natsui's permission to eat. The cruel Natsui had surely told the kitchen something to that effect. I have to respectfully receive Madame's punishment. That's right. My position in the world is furniture, and I've been intoxicated by a dream that's beyond me. I finished cleaning the hallway and went to the reception hall. Maybe my hunger made my nose more sensitive. I could sense a delicious aroma waiting from the kitchen, even though it was far away, and my empty stomach was encouraged even more. Until I finished up here, I wouldn't get any soup. I just had to resolve myself to doing it. Several portraits were hung in the reception hall. One of those portraits was thought to hold a special meaning amongst the servants. Which one is that? Oh!
It was a picture of Kinzo's balls. Whoa.
It was the portrait of the witch. That wasn't its true name, but everyone in the mansion called it that. The name of the woman with elegant blonde hair, drawn as the subject of that portrait, was Beatrice. It was whispered that she might be the former mistress of Kinzo, the family head, and also that she was the great witch who had given Kinzo the gold of the legend. The witch, Beatrice, master of the night on Rokkenjima. She was gracious to those who respected her, but she would surely curse those who made light of her. It was in Shannon's character not to neglect rules and beliefs such as those, so she thought of the portrait of her other master as that person herself, and always treated it carefully, treasuring it, and it had become part of her daily routine to tell the witch, who only existed inside the portrait, the secrets of her heart. She was furniture. Furniture doesn't complain, cannot complain, so she had no right to speak her mind about her difficult days. She had no right to open her mouth and say those words. So, she at least spoke her mind inside her heart. She spoke her mind inside her heart, using words she couldn't say aloud, and protested to the formless witch. Of course, the witch didn't answer. She didn't console, and she didn't laugh it off. Shannon could only interpret that silence as she liked, as though the witch was responding agreeably. Beatrice, please listen to the story of my worthless self. As Shannon wiped the dust from the witch's portrait, she spoke that inside her heart. I certainly am incompetent and uncultured, just as Ava said. I am not a person, so maybe I have no right to love. But in that case, why was I given a heart that can know love? At that point, Shannon held back her tears for a moment. The sound of the rain, which had started falling, along with the chill air in the reception hall, made her feel as though her shabbiness had increased another level. Real furniture doesn't have anything like a heart, so they don't have to love people, right? So they don't feel pain. If I'm just another piece of furniture, why do I have a heart? If it's going to be this painful and this harsh, I wish I was never given a heart like this. I see. So a heart was given to furniture. It would seem that even that man is capable of some quite amusing things every now and then. Ha 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 ha. What? The witch that never answered her laughed. Answered. And laughed. Was it my imagination? Was I hearing things? No, that's wrong. After all, the next words became a voice, and I could hear them, not with my heart, but with my ears. Humans have continually searched for the elements that make up the world since before the modern era. It is said that in ancient times the Greeks tried explaining the world with the 4 elements of wind, fire, water, and earth. And after that, over several millennia, humans added several elements to those 4, trying to explain the world with several interpretations such as the 5 elements, the 6 elements, the 7 elements, the 8 elements, and the 12 elements. But they were never able to describe the one sole truth that exists, the single element. However, a single man appeared by the guidance of a star, and finally explained the single element that makes up the world. Know what it is? Oh, who? Shannon fearfully turned around.
What the fuck?
Right there, she existed. Not as an illusion, but as a reality. The contrast made by the lightning made it clear that this was no mere daydream. It's love. The witch of the portrait elegantly held a golden pipe to her mouth and giggled. She laughed at the ignorance that causes humankind's thoughts to stray far from the most simple answer. That man explained everything in the world with love. That is the single element. That man fully explained how the world was constructed with the smallest possible number. How simple and clear, how splendid, exhilarating, pleasant, and thrilling. The year that man was finally born is called the start of the modern era. Shannon lost any words to speak. She thought that when first meeting an unknown guest, her first words should be to ask that person's name. But without saying anything, Shannon knew this person's name, so she refrained. No, surely it would be the greatest disrespect for someone who lived or worked on this island to ask this woman her name. After all, she was the other master of this island, besides Kinzo. But Beatrice... Indeed. I am Beatrice. Even after 1,000 years, I see that people still always give me that look when we first meet. Ha 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 ha. The witch giggled at how Shannon's reaction didn't betray her expectations. Shannon realized that she had met with a being that mustn't be met with, and she took a step backwards. That's where the wall and the portrait were, so even as she gazed at the witch's portrait was touching her back. The source of your troubles is love. Love, the single element that makes up this world. In other words, it is everything in this world. When it is lacking, then your world is lacking too. It is no different from scooping water into a canteen with a hole in it. Even if you scoop and scoop, that eternal desert of the heart never fills. It is the original sin that humans are founded upon and everything is made of. Understand? When Adam and Eve put the fruit of knowledge to their lips, love is what they learned of. Because of that, humans were chased out of the garden and became fully human, which means that knowing love and suffering is what makes one human. You kind-hearted child, you ought to be praised. Now that you have gained this knowledge, you are no longer furniture. You are now human. I recognize that with all the authority of my name. Humph. Is it hard for a common person to understand? Very well then. Ha 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 ha. Forgive me. It has been a long time since I have spoken with a human. Allow me to apologize for my talkativeness. Without waiting for a reply from Shannon, Beatrice laughed pleasantly for a while. Perhaps this isn't much by way of apology, but I would be willing to grant that wish of yours with my power if you so desire. Huh? The meaning of those words surprised Shannon even more than the witch's sudden appearance. I am offering to bring you and the one you love together. Normally, I would demand something of equal value in return. Ha 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 ha! However, I am in a good mood, and you have never failed to pay your respects to me in the past. That is something worth rewarding. Is that true? Normally, Shannon would have been shocked and struck dumb by this seemingly impossible gesture. However, almost as though she was already under the witch's spell, Shannon responded. With my magic, it would be no trouble at all to arrange for you to be joined with the one you love. Yes, of course. Shannon almost said that without thinking, but held back with her last bit of common sense. After all, this is a witch, a sinister being. The witch Beatrice is clearly trying to slip in through the cracks in my heart and take me prisoner. That sort of temptation, which so many fairy tale picture books warned me about when I was young, is right in front of me now. Fear is also a form of respect. It may be pleasant for me, but we will make no progress this way. I may not differ much from the image of a detestable witch that you hold in your mind. However, I do bestow my favor upon those who respect me. Aren't humans the same? Well, I doubt any human would bestow a favor upon one with such a hostile attitude.
My apologies. I didn't mean...
Shannon eventually realized how rude she was acting towards this guest, and she finally digested the words that had been spoken to her a short while ago. You are no longer furniture. Now you are human. As she reflected upon those words, Shannon felt as though the witch understood all her worries.
What was that, just now, about a reward?
I say that I can arrange for you to be joined with the man who has captured your heart. Think of it as a sign of my gratitude for your diligence in polishing my portrait day after day. Calm yourself. I ask for nothing in return. I am generous. However, though I ask for nothing in return, I do have a request. Look, here it comes. Part of Shannon's heart sent her a warning. This is what all those scary picture books she'd read when she was a little had warned her about. Do you know of the small torii and shrine that have been constructed on the ocean very near this island, which you can see when you gaze at the cliffs? Shannon immediately remembered it. When you reached Rokkenjima by boat, there was a torii and a shrine on a reef that was too small to be called even an islet. I'm pretty sure Akumasawa told me its history, but I can't remember it well. A traveling shugenja, a kind of holy man, had built it or prayed there or something.
Yes, I know about it, but why do you bring it up?
I will not explain everything, including the very basics, to one ignorant of demons. Simply put, it's causing me trouble. The truth is, there's a mirror kept inside that shrine. I want you to break it. It was quite a suspicious request. Shannon didn't know the details, but anything stored inside a shrine would have to be something sacred. And she wants me to break it? Why would a witch ask a human for help instead of doing it herself? There was no need for Shannon to speak her thoughts aloud. Beatrice responded to Shannon's reasonable doubt before Shannon could give her an answer. The magical power of that mirror opposes my own. I cannot explain it well with human words. For example, let us speak of the differences between utensils. That mirror is a fork, and my power is soup. You cannot drink soup with a fork, correct? If only the resistance of that mirror were gone, I could produce a spoon ideal for drinking soup. After that, I could drink soup as I pleased, and even dig my way out of a rocky prison. I could even gouge someone's eye out with it. Was that not the phrase?
I think that the mirror is the key, maybe. Possibly.
Maybe.
Maybe. It's possible.
I don't know what you're talking about. If my poor education is to blame, I apologize.
It comes down to this. If you take action and break that annoying mirror for me, I shall grant your wish as a reward. I am in quite a good mood today. You may even change your wish and receive all the gold I bestowed upon Kinzo if you so desire.
I refuse.
What? When she heard Shannon's words, Beatrice realized for the first time that her expectations had been betrayed. If you have a reason, tell me. If there has been some misunderstanding, I shall resolve it.
I don't really understand the reason, but up until now, this island had been at peace and nothing bad has happened. So, even if I don't break the mirror, the peace that has existed until today should continue into the future.
Yes, you are quite right. It's just as you say. If you don't break the mirror, the same unbreakable days that have passed until now will continue into tomorrow and the next day. Why don't I give you an absolute guarantee? I shall stake my name, Beatrice, on it. The unbreakable days before this time will continue into tomorrow and the next day, and for eternity, in perpetuity. Shannon felt overwhelmed by an eerie illusion. The mirror probably existed for the purpose of restraining the witch. So, if Shannon broke it, the person who stood to gain was supposedly the witch herself. And yet, Shannon felt somehow that she had to do it for her own sake. It felt like some premise had been switched around. I will do nothing but grant you a chance to bring your feelings to fruition. It's up to you to decide whether you'll break it or not. If you break it, I shall grant your wish. If you don't, the tomorrows that came before today will continue for all eternity. Your wish will not be granted for all time. Do you understand? Do you see what I mean? Ha 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 ha. The witch was speaking. She was pressing Shannon, saying she must break the mirror if she ever wanted to be united with George. It was a declaration that Shannon's feelings would never be brought to fruition unless she broke it.
Please, stop it. I don't want to hear something like that.
It was never my goal to cause you pain. Oh well. When love leads to madness, that is when we see the true charm of humanity. Enjoy that emotion to your heart's content. However, if you wish to borrow my power, feel free to break that mirror at any time, and then you may yell my name and awaken me. I will certainly keep my promise. This way, you should have no complaints, right? I won't force you to decide right now. Easy, is it not? Was it really such an easy thing to do? No, it certainly wasn't. To Shannon, who was burning with infatuation and worried by love, being tempted constantly and eternally with a way out was truly a cruel trial. I won't set a time limit on that promise, but there is a time limit on the magic that can grant your wish. That limit is not of my making. The one you love will decide it himself. You see my meaning?
No, I don't understand.
When the one you care for finds the partner to whom he ought to pledge his love, that limit will be reached. I may be a witch, but I am no demon. I possess no magic to tear apart a pair of those who love each other. The one you love will soon be attending a marriage meeting, yes? You may have stronger feelings for that man than anyone else in the world. However, that doesn't mean you are the most suitable partner for him, does it? I know with whom he will be having his marriage meeting. That girl is the most suitable for Ushiromiya George in the entire world. She came from a good school, achieved good grades, and possesses both composure and thoughtfulness. She is more beautiful than you, wiser than you, more suitable than you. How could an ignorant, incompetent, uncultured girl like you be suitable? You know better than anyone. There are none less suitable than you. Even imagining that you and Ushiromiya George could be joined is sinful and foolish, foolish, foolish. Know your place. Have you forgotten to be grateful for your education? Know your place. George is the eldest grandson carrying father's blood. He's a person who may bear the burden of the Ushiromiya family someday in the future. To answer to that expectation, he has studied tirelessly, entered a wonderful college, and is getting wonderful grades. Do you really think you could snatch George away, you uneducated, incompetent, unqualified, uncultured servant?
Stop it! Don't bully Shannon. Who the hell are you?
At that time, as Shannon held her head, trying to protect her heart from the blade of Beatrice's words, Cannon ran in front of her. Cannon didn't care who this woman was. If this was an enemy tormenting Shannon, whom he loved and respected as a sister, nothing else mattered.
Cannon, stay back. This person is...
It seemed Cannon also realized that the being standing before him was the witch of the portrait, and also that she was something to be feared. I simply wished to give Shannon a chance to claim her reward, but it seems I said too much and ended up hurting her. I must apologize for that.
But I shall leave behind that promise as a reward to you.
If you need my power, call me at any time. I have already told you how.
Well then,
let us call it a night. Hostile gazes may be pleasant, but they damage your beauty, yes? Ha 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 ha.
Disappear. I don't know who you are, but you're threatening Shannon. Don't ever show yourself again.
Cannon's words seemed to deeply annoy the witch. Watch your language, low-born. I may be gracious to those who respect me, but I am brutal to those who do not. While she still smiled, the witch's face began to twist itself. Then, an oppressive feeling that couldn't be noticed with any of the five senses gradually filled the room. Even though they couldn't understand it, they immediately realized it was something terrifying. When you swim in the ocean and something large passes by in the water beneath you, you want to escape to land even before you learn what it is. That's exactly what this was like.
Please stop, Beatrice. Cannon is still a child. I apologize for his language.
Cannon placed his body between the witch and Shannon. There was tense sweat on his forehead. At that time, the witch certainly held Cannon's fate in the palm of her hand. She didn't even need to lift a finger. She held a grasp on his fate so tight that a single twist of her smile could easily crush it. Cannon understood that as well, so he started sweating. His knees felt weak. However, Beatrice abruptly released that feeling of tension and laughed. Very well. If you ask, I will forgive you just this once. Canon, is it? In deference to her, I shall forgive you tonight and send you off. You ought to thank me. Well then, let us call it a night. In parting, I shall leave you with a small souvenir. Hold out the palm of your left hands, you two. When Beatrice grinned broadly and snapped her fingers, their left hands stretched out in front of them against their will, and their palms opened. It was a strange sensation, as though only their left hands now belonged to someone else. It felt like only their left hands had become puppets, which were being pulled by strings hanging down from the ceiling. What are you trying to do? Cannon resisted, but he couldn't retract his hand of his own free will. Don't struggle. It will be over soon. When Beatrice held her pipe aloft, a gold-colored sparkling dust came out of the smoke and hovered in the air. That sparkle eventually became several gold butterflies. The beautiful butterflies danced freely throughout the reception hall, forming a fantastical and beautiful world, and two of those butterflies alighted on the palms of Shannon and Cannon's hands. Ouch! There was a sharp pain, as though they had been burned. When the two of them tried to examine their palms, that hold on their bodies, which had been there a second ago, had gone without a trace. A mark? What is... There was now a tiny burn mark in the palm of her hand, and it was shaped like a butterfly. What is this supposed to be? Apparently, Cannon had the same mark on his hand. He stared at the witch hatefully. A simple greeting. I have no hidden motive. It is nothing more than a bruise, so it will heal in just a few days. There's not even any need to care for it. I made that mark so that tomorrow you will not forget that I truly was here, and that I made a promise with you. An encounter with me can be quite shocking. Sometimes when the next morning comes, people try to think of such an encounter as a dream or an illusion. You ought to consider this slowly and carefully, Shannon, and you should probably take a good rest, look at my mark tomorrow morning, and try considering it again. I shall not coerce you in any way. You should freely decide your future, by your own will. Still, to think that one could obtain the object of their desire for such a small price, surely, this would annoy to no end the great artists who write plays about blighted love. Ha 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 ha! Well then, let us meet again when the chance arises. How entertaining it is to have a conversation again after so much time. Goodbye, furniture! Ha 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 ha!
Thanos snap.
Beatrice's body crumbled like smoke and blew away. It was golden smoke. No, a cloud of gold butterflies. They scattered in all directions inside the reception hall, leaving a golden splash before disappearing into thin air. After that, only the cold silence was left. It was so silent, it made both of them think they might have been daydreaming until just a moment ago, which was why the witch had left those marks. She had done so to make it impossible for them to think of this as a daydream. As Shannon and Cannon remembered the butterfly bruises on their hands and the pain they'd felt when they'd been made, they kept standing still, stunned. And from that moment on, Shannon was tormented by days of suffering and conflict.
I really like how he added the pain. I really like how he added the pain with the addition of the butterfly marks.
The pain.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, because there's this idea that suffering is the only true thing that really marks the world. Like how they were talking about how love and suffering are the only things that exist.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing was really intellectually stimulating, and I really like that.
Yeah, or even, like, love and suffering are the different sides of the same coin, even.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that it's more along the lines of, like, good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, true, fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Like, that's what it literally says.
Yeah. And Beatrice is just, she's just in the characters section now. She's underneath Nanjo and above Genji.
This is all...
Yeah, it's all the same. Just their descriptions.
What's different? Oh, let me save really quick, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have saved at a different place. Oh well, doesn't matter. Whoa, I have so many fucking saves, dude. Oh my god. I haven't been using any of these. And I probably won't.
You probably won't what?
I probably won't use any of the saves that I get. All of the saves.
Oh, well, yeah.
Whoa! The thing is red now. The flowers and shit on the right hand of the screen is red instead of gold as it was before.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, I guess it's a different color now.
The only reason I remember that is because if you look on like pretty much everybody, the thing is actually the one-winged eagle leaf is gold.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, pretty cool. I like that. I like that. That was pretty fun. Is that the end of this this first part, right?
Yep, that's the end.
Okay.
And then there's a bunch of shorter ones after this. So next week next week we'll be able to do 3 whole ones before 2:00, and plus a podcast, plus a book club. So
lots of book club.
Yeah.
Too much book club. Hell yeah, dude.
So, is that all you have to say about that?
I do think that that mirror thing is the key, because remember fucking George professed his love for fucking Shannon
Yeah.
last time.
You mean
So
when he
thinking-
asked to marry her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that this part is happening before. Well, obviously it's happening before.
Yeah. That's an awesome like first part, because it goes all out of order, because obviously the beginning with George and Shannon at the beach and off of the island, that's happening after she broke the mirror. And then it shows her breaking the mirror, and then it goes even further back to before she even broke the mirror. But I guess it's kind of showing, because she's telling George, "Oh, it's magic," and then George doesn't understand what she's saying.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But fucking goddamn it, I don't like having to mix like fake magic shit with fucking real life murder mystery bullshit. It's hard for my brain. I want to only hold one side, and I'm choosing the side of real life, even though it's like, because every time they say Beatrice exists, it's always in quotations.
Because she exists.
Yeah, well, fuck off. Don't even talk to me about fucking Beatrice exists. Well, fucking obviously she does, but like not in the same way that other characters exist. They're the witches are fundamentally different.
Okay.
Fuck off, Beatrice. I deny your existence. Fuck you. Alright. But yeah, that's the end of this one.
Yep.
Stay tuned for the next one.
More
people will die? Yeah, more people will die.
At some point.
At some point.
This one's gonna go live on fucking September 30th.
What the
This is
fuck?
going to be Monday, September 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yep. And we'll see you on Wednesday the 2nd, everyone, for the next one.
Yay.
Yay.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Have fun.